Visit California invited me on a 5-day aquatic adventure through my home state. The reason? Damage control. There was an oil spill off the coast of Santa Barbara, and the destination needed to get the message out that it was safe to visit. But the biggest evidence that everything was all good wasn't taking their word for it. It was proof by showing that wildlife was back and flourishing. And the best way to show that was taking a group of journalists right there to experience it. Hi friends, welcome to the Rewatch. We are rewatching my very first travel show, a show I self-produced from start to finish 10 years ago. I had a distribution deal to put it on Amazon Prime Video, but I never put it on YouTube, so that's what we're doing now. So the Refugio oil spill happened in May 2015 along the Gaviota coast in Santa Barbara County, California. It contaminated one of the most biologically diverse areas of the West Coast with 142,800 gallons of spilled crude oil. Friends, this was awful. It was devastating for the coastline, the marine life. And about a week or two later, an invite came to my inbox inviting me on this trip. The spill happened at the state beach and leaked into the Santa Barbara Channel. It was a biological crisis and also a crisis for Santa Barbara's tourism. Because also you have to recall at this time, seemed to be oil spill after oil spill after oil spill. And people were just like, you guys, you got to get together. We cannot just be killing our wildlife like this. So when I say it's a crisis for the tourism, what that means is bookings were dropping, people were canceling. The perception was that the entire coast was contaminated. So Visit California's response was to bring journalists and digital storytellers to the coast. And I remember asking them, is this really the truth? Is it really cleaned up? You can really tell me because I'm really cool with the tourism board. And another question, is it safe not only for the animals, but for the people? And they said, bet, Davey, we are telling the truth. Come and let us show you. So for this trip, we were on the water, on the boats, in the kayaks, and even at a surfing competition. Actually, the biggest one in the world. We're gonna get to that shortly. This is how destinations and brands do crisis control. It is a strategic part of their marketing. And as media professionals, you also have to be the most on your toes and use discretion not to be played or to promote propaganda. You can take these trips and follow the itinerary and the marketing talking points presented to you. Journalists know how and understand how to weigh this with their own editorial discretion to find the truth. People not skilled in journalism may not know how or when to do this and to play right into the marketing arm. Paid content creators, by the way, they sign an agreement to regurgitate those marketing points exactly how the brands want it. And they often forego editorial control. Journalists always have a hold and a commitment to editorial control. So when travel brands and destinations invite journalists to experiences, they actually know they are taking a risk that if something goes wrong or not as they exactly planned, they could receive poor or unfavorable coverage. But the risk is actually worth it because they know the value of a great review and presentation of services. Without influence, a pure editorial review is the deliverable that actually means the most. It's the most authentic and it will resonate with their target audience the most. So that's the ebb and flow of this whole game of press trips for traditional news media versus paid collaborations. One is meant to be based on unbiased reviews and the other is essentially a commercial, an ad. And both have their place in this whole system. So 5 days, 4 tourism boards, and 1 mission to prove that the coast was safe. Let's rewatch my Southern California water adventure episodes of Beyond the Usual.
Who is this? Is it a dog or a horse?
Horseback rides are awesome by themselves. A horseback ride through the cliffs and hills of Santa Barbara is epic.
I have to show my horsey spot.
Guided ride, we were supposed to see the ocean below, except our views were blocked by the fog or smog or whatever.
Yeah, this one right here goes out to all the babies, mamas.
This is the #1 show.
Southern California has certainly earned its reputation as a great vacation destination. Hollywood, home to the movie stars, Disneyland, and a bunch of other land attractions. But this time, let's play in the ocean.
Your tender touch. I need the love, my dear, I miss so much. From this old world, I try to hide my face. But from this loneliness, there's no hiding place. My world is empty without you, babe.
Over the years, Newport Beach has been known as a playground for the rich and famous, but today, it's my playground.
In darkness with memories.
So let's start by hopping on some jet skis and cruise the gorgeous coastline.
I need love now more than before. I can hardly carry on anymore.
Hey, Yacht Club!
We were on the hunt for some dolphins, hoping they'd come play with us. Unfortunately, we only saw these grumpy seals. Warning, don't take selfies with the seals. They're cute, but not friendly at all.
And as I go my way alone,
Stand-up paddleboarding has become one of the most popular ways to hang out on the water. Not quite a surfboard, not quite a kayak, more like a combination of the two.
One thing I always say, I've been sick with the words since the first time kicking the verse. I get you.
I think I finally got my sea legs.
The boards are pretty stable. It just takes some getting used to.
Just drinking liquor till my vision is blurred. I'm sick when I spit and it isn't the cure. The non-sequitur rhymes, rhyme predator. Head of your repertoire, better for the chore, embedded in the core. Run up in the cut like I'm so secure, and plus my flow from the gut like my soul is pure.
Next time on Beyond the Usual, we'll take a kayak ride just for these epic views.
Dope, it was a quote. If you don't get it, then it's not how I measured it. Evident.
All right, so that was the very first episode. That cold open, you could notice that it was kind of very low cam quality footage. I remember using a sports cam that I had, and I was kind of like a GoPro knockoff that I got from one of those overseas companies back then. But you can imagine 2015 version of that, and it might have even been a year old or something like that. But that's what I used because I knew I was going on a horseback ride. I do remember them saying that when we were in Santa Barbara that we were very close to Oprah's house, which that was a big deal for me at the time. And then the actual episode, this was my first time jet skiing. Didn't show very much. It's one of those activities of like, okay, great, I showed you can jet ski. Here's what to do. Here's the ocean. And then you can see that I was tandem with a lady because I was not familiar with it and didn't really trust myself. It was pretty relaxed. There's an episode coming up where that was the last time I went jet skiing. And when we get to that, it will be no surprise. I also noticed in that episode, at this point in my creator career, I still am learning about sunlight versus backlight. So some of my stand-ups, the sun was behind me. So you just saw like the blur. You just really didn't even see my face. And then of course, with those low quality cameras, there's only so much that camera sensor can do. And then when we were paddleboarding, I remember that this whole journey to being a travel journalist and travel content creator, 2015, I was very new at it, was exposure to some really first time experiences. That was my second time on a stand-up paddleboard. It was the first time was actually what you saw in the BVI episodes, the very first episode when we were in Anegada. It was a little rough. I remember not staying on it too long. And then this one, we had to go all around it was kind of like a port harbor area. So the water was relatively flat and smooth, save some wake waves. But I do remember after that, I was kind of like, this is a lot of work and I'm not really that into it. So I think I've only paddleboarded one more time or a couple more times after that. But this is when I checked it off my list, was like, yeah, paddleboarding is for other people, not for me. I'll do something else. Let's watch the next episode.
On our drive down the coast from Santa Barbara to LA, we stopped in Ventura and happened upon this lovely jewel of a surprise called Paradise Pantry. One side's a restaurant, the other is a market with a huge selection of artisan cheeses.
Funny, someone just said, this is what heaven looks like. Lots of cheese, lots of wine.
Along with the wine too, you have a lot of fun local wine that you can't necessarily find anywhere else.
Bacon spread.
And all of this locally sourced food and drinks go into the meal you can order at the restaurant. We're taking a trip to the Galapagos Islands of North America, better known as the Channel Islands. Well, I mean, that's really their name. We head out on an hour-long boat ride. It starts as a gloomy and chilly day. But there were plenty of wildlife sightings. The humpback whales put on a show.
Whoa!
My favorite moment in traveling so far. We were blessed with the presence of a super pod of dolphins. Our destination was Santa Cruz Island.
Kayaking adventure in the middle of the ocean. Here we are again.
We explored the caves all around the coast.
So this little retreat is called Seal Cave. It's a nice little safe haven to keep the seals protected against predators.
And it seemed that the weather changed on us a few times. And then we spotted seals. 2 hours of this, and we were done.
Do you want to eat? Yeah. We've had our adventure.
I think we're gonna eat.
After lunch, it was a hike up the hill. Views of the cliffs below. Next time on Beyond the Usual. We'll get up close and a little personal with some of the best surfers in the world.
So for a vlog, I do like the cadence of how I'm gathering the stand-ups. I'm getting a little information from the guide or the host, and then I'm running over here and telling you about it. I think it keeps the cadence of the story going along without you having to go back and recall it, without you having to do a lot of voiceovers. So if you did this as a creator yourself, you wouldn't have to do voiceovers to connect the storylines. You can show and tell at the same time on the scene. That would probably also make your editing flow much better. This was one of my most favorite experiences ever, experiencing a super pod. And I don't really think I explained it well there at all, of the magic of it, because I knew looking back that I didn't have the content to show what it really was. And I remember feeling incredibly frustrated when I'm looking back, because I was like, this video doesn't show the dimensions of what it was. And I will tell you how it unfolded for me. I was standing on the boat. It was kind of a gloomy, breezy day. We were seeing dolphins follow the boat a little bit, and that was exciting. I love dolphins. Dolphins are actually my favorite animal. And then we saw some seals. So to the point of this purpose of this trip anyways, were the wildlife there? Yes. And they were flourishing, right? So they did a decent job, a good job of cleaning up the oil spill. Not propaganda, because the proof is if the wildlife is back, and the wildlife was back. So that's the first point. But the second thing, let's just walk through the super pod. I was standing at the deck, just looking out and daydreaming. And the spotter, I happened to be standing next to the spotter. So above us, the person on the mic announcing to the entire boat was getting their cues of what was coming ahead from the guy standing next to me, who was more of a silent guy. So he nudges me and he was like, get ready. And I was like, for what? He's like, it's something fantastic is about to happen. And I started to see dolphins come our way. And then it just accumulated, like it was building and building and growing. And I literally was screaming, and we have video, which I guess we didn't show here, of me screaming to the point I had a photographer on the boat, and he said, you were screaming the whole time, because they started to engulf the boat. And afterwards, the spotter told me what was actually happening was like it was an inverse pyramid. So there was thousands of them, hundreds of them under, and they were coming up as they kind of taking turns coming up and getting air and having a ball. And the energy and the sound, and there were also seagulls, because what was happening, it was just a big old energy of earth, human connection, wildlife. It was the most magical experience I ever had. A super pod is not a few dolphins. It's not 12 dolphins. He said there was about 1,000 dolphins surrounding our boat. The only way I could imagine capturing that was with the drone. I remember saying that on the boat at the time. So the clips I showed you were the best I had. And also, quite frankly, I also really wasn't doing a good job of trying to capturing and jumping around, trying to hand my camera to somebody else to get some of that stuff. Anyways, that is worth mentioning. The other thing, you saw me when we were kayaking on the ocean. I said, here we go again. Recall the BVI episodes, the trauma that was suffered there. But this was also the first time I did it in tandem form. And with that, let's watch the final episode of this series.
Yeah, it was really fun. Oh my God, look at this thing.
When in Surf City, USA, you do what the locals do. And that's surf. But first, the basics. And now, let's take it to the ocean.
It wasn't me, it was the waves and the board.
Today's a big day. The top surfers in the world have all convened in Surf City, USA, aka Huntington Beach. Vendors flooded the pier and the streets in downtown. A walk around was its own adventure. There was also a chili cook-off going on, and I tried some at some random booth.
Sky stuff. No, sky stuff. There we go. Look at her try cheating.
Oh, look. All right, look. Video button. Did you already? Hold on, wait.
Kangaroo and alligator.
So some backwoods stuff.
That was backwoods stuff.
It was literally people watching gold. This 42-foot-long surfboard was created to be the longest in the world. Over 60 professional and amateur surfers came to participate in the epic big board ride.
Plenty of surfing contests around the world, but and events here in Huntington, but nothing ever like this. Waxing the board is the biggest group of people waxing the surfboard ever.
The goal is to load all 66 surfers on the board. And everyone has to stand and ride at least one wave for 10 seconds. All in celebration of 100 years of surfing in Huntington Beach, California. And it looks like they did it.
Okay, so that was it. That was my first time surfing, and I was like, I want to get into this, and I've been looking for actually to do a trip, a surf camp trip ever since. Still need to try to make that happen, even 10 years later, right? So that was cool. This was another throwback feeling to sports coverage. That surfing competition was so fun. The vibes were off the hook. Celebrities were mixing and mingling, but they weren't even the biggest deal. The surfers were. And of course, the street food stuff was so fun. Actually, that moment, kangaroo and alligator was just such a fun, those guys had such fun energy. I was roaming by myself, and again, a little bit about my personality. I was pretty still shy. So putting myself out there just made that whole experience as well. And then, so I love that interaction, but the surfing competition, there's something really special about what that, it was for the Guinness Book of World Records, and I don't even think I mentioned it in that. So that was a faux pas in my storytelling here. In fact, let's just talk about what is still open. So of course, you go to Southern California, you can jet ski, you can paddleboard. There are rentals at Newport Beach and Huntington Beach. That's all still available. That's a very evergreen Southern California experience. The Channel Islands still do boat tours from Santa Barbara and even off the coast, all the way down into Southern California, Los Angeles area. So that is definitely an experience you can have, and you can go to the islands. Dolphin and whale watching tours still active. Huntington Beach surfing and surf lessons, yeah, that's still available. Huntington Beach, it is still Surf City, USA. But that epic big board event, this was a one-time event in June 20th of 2015, breaking 2 Guinness World Records, the most people riding on a surfboard and the largest surfboard to float ever. The most people, 66 people. The surfboard, 42 feet long and 1,300 pounds. The reason for all of these shenanigans, it was part of Huntington Beach's 100 years of surfing celebration, and the board is actually now on permanent display outside of the International Surfing Museum in downtown Huntington Beach. So this is a destination that you can go and visit and have a lot of fun. And as far as I still can find, that record still stands. And so it still has not been repeated. So it looks like my little video was a time capsule capturing a once in a lifetime experience. That Southern California water adventure trip was super fun, but next time we're staying on the East Coast in Morganton, California, the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Linville Gorge. They call it the Grand Canyon of the East. And this is a place that many people at the time didn't know even existed. I'll catch you in the next video.